What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the JERRY1 Podcast. This is episode number 24. 24. Episode number 24 of the JERRY1 Podcast. And I'm your host, Nick Felice, and this is another great episode. This is a lot going on. It's an action-packed episode of JERRY1 overall. We got the playoffs. It's playoff time over in fantasy basketball and fantasy hockey. And then we're also in week 2 of 3 of the JERRY1 2021 ESPN Tournament Challenge. And we got a JERRY1 Fantasy Baseball news on an upcoming draft for this Sunday that I will announce at the end of the show. If you're in the league, you already know when it is. But for other viewers, it's at the end of the show. I'll tell you when the JERRY1 Fantasy Baseball draft is this weekend. So that's what we got in store. It's going to be a big episode. And I also got a new game to introduce in this game because, yes, someone is on the podcast for his third time, for a record-setting third time. It is the one and only JERRY1 GOAT. Paul Russo is on the podcast today, my Finger Lakes 1 co-host. Paul Russo's on the show. He's playing in both playoffs. He's got the bye in hockey, so we're going to really talk about his basketball team as he faces Larry. Paul's the last seed in, 6th seed. Larry's the 3 seed. Could have been the number 1 seed. We're going to talk to Paul about that matchup. We're going to talk to Paul. He's inaugural champion in fantasy basketball. Can he make a run? We're going to talk about his bracket a little bit. We're going to talk about his hockey team. And we're going to talk about his baseball draft, a little bit about his baseball draft preview since he was so close last year in that shortened season. But Paul Russo's on the podcast. Episode 24 of the JERRY1 Podcast is getting going right now. Here we go. Paul's going to come on in a second, but I forgot to mention it in the intro that today is Thursday, March 25th, 2021. You're watching this on YouTube on March 26th, 2021, Friday edition. Gotta love those Friday editions, yo. Start your weekend with the JERRY1 Podcast. But yeah, it's a beautiful day out. It's 70 degrees here in Niagara Falls, New York. On this Thursday, it's gonna be it's gonna the warm weather is looking up as we head towards April, my favorite month of the year. But yeah, let's talk about fantasy basketball. Why don't we throw the final standings up? As you see, Blake defeated Larry. Blake is the number one seed. Unbelievable week. 15th best scoring week that we've seen in a 7-week format. Blake just absolutely dominated his match against Larry. Larry, second in scoring, though. First unlucky week of the year. Not a lot. You can't get a lot of unlucky weeks when you only lose 3 times a year. But Larry, was so close to being the number one seed. Doesn't even get his first career bye. Kyle gets the bye. He has to come back against me on Sunday to get that bye. That's how the 2 byes worked out. Larry's the 3 seed. Kyle's the 2 for the second straight year. Blake's the number 1 in his first year in the playoffs in this league. Sam's in. He's not the number 1 seed this year, but he's in again. He's playing his brother. He's playing my brother Matt. Clarkson University rivalry in the first round of the playoffs, and then Paul gets in with the win. Justin and Kurt didn't even win in week 12. Hats off to Josh getting that win off over Kurt, not to come in last place. Jack comes in last place. Paul gets it with ease. Justin Kiefer made a push to 7th place. 7th place doesn't do enough. Last year would have got you in the playoffs. This year, nope, not getting in. But not a bad first year for Justin Kiefer in his first year in this league. But yeah, the non-playoff teams are done. Like me, just couldn't get it going. Tried to get a nice win over Kyle, just wasn't meant to be this year. Just too many problems in my team. One, people not playing games, people getting traded, stuff like that, and just people not performing well, and injuries. It affected me tremendously this year. So that's it for me. Jack didn't set his lineup most of the year. One of the few guys he is the only guy to do that, I would say. Josh, just couldn't get a lot of luck on his side. Not like he has the greatest team in the world, but definitely no 2-10 team. I'll say that. Kurt and Justin, just so many problems. Justin just collapsed, lost 3 straight end of the year. You can't do that. And that's Justin Hill, I'm saying. Justin Kiefer, though, had a good first year. But let's talk about the 6. I think on the prediction show, I think I predicted, I did not predict Paul. I'm sorry about that. How can I go against the JERRY1 GO? But I did not predict Paul. But here he is playing Larry. As I speak on this Thursday, it's 5 in the afternoon, 5 evening, 5:13 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And we got a Paul lead over Larry right now, 403, 379. Not too surprised because this Paul team is good. This Larry team is also good. You talk about these playoffs, this is going to be to the death. These 6 teams are going at each other. And of course, Sam's got the lead over Matt. Sam without Curry, Matt without LeBron. So that's it without your 2 first-round picks. We'll see how that one plays out. Sam's never won a playoff game in this league. Matt's been to 2 finals, never won. Paul, the inaugural champion, he's also been to 2 finals, won one of the 2. And Larry's got 1 playoff win. So Sam got in the most inexperienced playoff team in this group of the first round here. Obviously, Blake hasn't played a playoff game yet. And Kyle's played in 1 official game. He won it over Justin Hill last year in the first round before it all got canceled. So Sam really got to start proving himself a little bit. He's got to get that monkey off his back. He's got to get that first playoff win. It's going to be a tough team. Matt's a good team. Sam's 7th in scoring this regular season. Matt was 3rd in scoring this regular season. So we'll see what happens. Let's just confirm. Yes. Matt was 3rd in scoring this regular season. Yes. So this is a good Matt team, despite being a 5 seed. This is a deep 5 seed. We've seen 2 5 seeds make a run in JERRY1 Fantasy Sport Playoffs. Yours truly did both of them. 18-19 basketball and 19 baseball. 5 seed went to the 1 and all. Jack Bow in 18 baseball did get to the finals as a 5 seed, but Sam Shields beat him. So 5 seeds have had, and the 5 seed has had the upper hand over the 4 seeds. So we'll see if the 4 seed can finally get a win here. It's not been a while because Justin Kiefer did it over Jack in hockey last year, but the 5 seed has just it's dominated this matchup between the 5 and the 4. 2 even teams. We got 2 even teams here. Sam and Matt, this is going to be a great game. The rivalry. Not saying there's not a Larry Paul rivalry. I'm sure Larry would love to be where Paul is. Paul he's going for 200 career wins now. Obviously, Larry's not even played 200 career games. I mean, that's a lot of time to win 200 career games. Paul's been playing since 2011. Larry's been playing since 2018. So we'll see what happens here. It's almost like it's a trap game for Larry in this playoffs. I think he's going to lose this. I hate to say it, but I think Matt and Paul could win. It's not surprising. They're JERRY1 legends to get to the semifinals, take on arguably definitely the 2 best teams this year in Kyle and Blake. Larry, though, close third. I think regular season wise, Larry's been that close third. He did have a nice stretch there where he looked like he could have been the best team. We still don't know who the best team is. Are we really buying in on Blake? Are we really buying in on Kyle, who was the favorite coming into the year? It was Kyle and Sam who were the favorites coming into the year. So we'll see what happens. I think Larry, I think he could win this game potentially, but you have to watch out for Paul. You have to. I think the JERRY1 legends could get to the semis. There's a chance. We haven't talked about hockey yet on this show, but there's a chance that Paul and Matt can meet in both the hockey and the basketball finals. I mean, you talk about greatness in fantasy sports, that would be greatness. We saw that. We have seen this before. In 2018, we saw Nate Severance, and Paul go in the hockey finals and the basketball finals at the same time. Nate won basketball, Paul won hockey. So, it was a split. But there's a chance. There's a chance we could see Matt and Paul in both the finals. As a guy like Nick, as a Nick Felice of this league, as a guy who's always been treated as like the third guy to them, obviously some people even think I'm below that because I don't have a football championship. I don't want to see this. I want to see a new name. I want to see a Kyle. I want to see a Blake, a Sam. These guys have come out strong. A Nate, a Larry. Larry's done well. I mean, he hasn't had the record, the winning percentage that Blake and Sam and Kyle and have come out with. Nate have come out with. If you see on the overall standings, Larry's more, a little bit over 500, but he's come on strong. He's had a great year. I think it's just his baseball record that's really hurt him, but I'm rooting for those guys. I mean, I'm not going to be upset if we see greatness and Matt and Paul are in the finals, but I'm rooting for the other people just because I'm not in the playoffs. I got to root for someone because I'm watching it. I'm the commissioner, so I'm watching it. Should be interesting. I'm excited to see how this one plays out. Fantasy basketball, like I said, it's going to be to the death. To the death, these 6 teams. I don't know who's going to win. If I had to pick, I can't go against Kyle and don't prove him wrong. Like Justin Kiefer said on the podcast a couple weeks ago, can't go wrong with Kyle. That's my pick. That's fantasy basketball. Now it's time to talk to Paul. Talk to him about this run. Talk about this hockey team. Talk about this bracket and baseball as he prepares for that for this week's draft that I will say at the end of the show. So here's that conversation with Paul. Enjoy. Today's guest is on the podcast for a record-setting time of 3 times on the pod. He hasn't been on actually since a little before Halloween, before we took a break there from the pod. But yes, this is the JERRY1 GOAT. This is a 5-time JERRY1 champion, 3 times in football, 1 time in basketball, 1 time in hockey. He's playing his 20th and 21st season in JERRY1 on basketball and hockey, and he just clinched his 15th and 16th playoff berth on basketball and hockey. Paul Russo. Paul, how's it going?
Doing good, Nick. Thanks for having me on again. Yeah, I don't know if I'm JERRY1 GOAT just yet, but hey, me and Matt are doing pretty good for ourselves.
And I said this to you yesterday and off the show, but 16 playoff berths. Is it as exciting as it was when you clinched that 2011 football playoff berth, your first one?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, anytime you get an opportunity to go for a championship, I mean it still brings you the same excitement, same challenges. it's never not a good feeling not being in the playoffs. So yeah, I mean, it's always exciting. Never gets old being in the postseason, and I'll take it every day of the week.
Yeah, and so this is your 14 previous playoffs, 5 championships,
Mm-hmm.
one season cut short, the
Yeah.
others not. So you've done a pretty good job. And did you know, Paul, out of the 16 playoff berths, 12 of them you have been a top 2 seed in 16 of them in 12.
Yeah, I didn't know that. I figured, um, yeah, usually I kind of, well, I guess probably more or less recently, I kind of get in these like mid-tier seed regions, like 3 or so. So yeah, that's pretty cool. I'll take that. That means I gotta be doing something right, I suppose.
Yeah. And so let's talk about basketball first. You
Hmm.
got in last week of the season, got
Yep.
in pretty easily. You won. Justin Kirk did not win the last week. Kirk needed a miracle because he was way behind in points. That was the only tiebreaker he could get in by because you beat him.
Yeah.
Uh, so you're in 6th seed. Couldn't really gain any ground because of Matt getting ahead of you in points. But
Hmm.
you beat Matt the last week of the season. Just before we talk about your first round matchup against Larry, just talk about your season so far.
Yeah, it's been an interesting year. Start off the year. Let me double check. I think it was something like every other week, just losing. I think I actually technically started off the year like what 0-2 or so. Yeah, 0-2, and then went on a 2-game win streak, 2 loss, losing streak again, then win, loss, and won ever since. So beginning of the year, it was a bit of a tough go, and obviously we'll touch on it in hockey too, but. COVID got my team there a little bit, especially early on, and had to cope a little bit, and a couple bigger injuries, with CJ McCullough and Larry Nance Jr. But we've been able to kind of pick it up, obviously, really well, and just starting from the beginning of the year till now, um, you know, kind of like football, became a little bit of a why not us mantra to myself here a little bit. And it's worked out well. And, I have a really good group of guys on this team, in my opinion. Um, some guys who, we definitely expected probably to do really good things with, obviously Jokic, Kawhi, Jimmy Butler, etc. there. And then, guys who I've been able to pick up really well, whether it was late in the draft and they've just stuck on my team the whole time, or waiver wire guys like Rashad Holmes. Um, I brought up Larry Nance Jr., who one of the main waiver guys that's just stuck my team the whole year. Um, to especially recently with like say Josh Hart or PJ Washington, so and Chris Boucher as well. So just a really interesting plethora of guys who have had really good years, that someone we expected and others really not so much. And um, the team that I forget what I started off as, Benedict Fragnoli's done really well.
Yeah. Yeah, what is is that's obviously a shot towards Kurt Ireland, your rivalry. What was
Yeah.
what was your instant reaction when you saw Kurt's team, Paul's Granny's panties?
Well, I kind of wondered how he got in my room for one, um, and then secondly, you know, it's not so much whatever. I like Kurt, obviously, grow up with him and everything. So just more than anything, it's a little playful banter. Hopefully, at least for me anyway. But you know, uh, it is what it is.
Yeah, it's
just if you come shooting for the crown, you best not miss.
yeah, it's all love. When I had Kurt on, I asked him the same question. He's just like, I even asked him, "Is this a rivalry between you and Paul?" He says he wishes it was because he wishes he was you as an owner. I think he looks up to you a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
But
Well, I, you know, I, it's hard. I mean, Kurt kind of looks up at everybody, but
yeah,
I,
he,
so that's a little shot there too. But we got a really good group of guys in basketball this year. So it's been nothing really but some love and interest from myself. So
Yeah, you mentioned one guy, CJ McCollum. You did get him back. He's
yeah,
actually going pretty off tonight on this Thursday night. Got
yeah, he's
30.
got 31 right now at the end of the third. So maybe pick up a couple more assists and boards. Maybe that would help boost the overall total up instead of getting everything from points wise. But yeah, it's quite the game going on between myself and Larry right now.
Yeah. Before we really dive into it, let's talk about Jokic.
Yeah.
Third overall pick, you got him. Obviously, you knew he was going to be good, but did you think he was going to be this good?
I mean, you always hope that the guy's going to be that good, right? Um, well, maybe not as good as he has been, I suppose, but look at what he was able to do last year, and came back this year a bit leaner. However, really lean he can get, he still looks like a loaf of bread. I call him a loaf of bread out there, and he really, we can joke about him all he wants. He can say what you want, but I mean, he's another one of those different type of once in a generational talents. We look at so for instance, you look at like what LeBron or Giannis, right? But I mean, look what Jokic is doing. I don't think we expected it from that dude's body, but yeah, definitely a little bit better than even I anticipated. I would say.
Yeah, he's unbelievable. Like he's averaging 37.3 points a game. That is just, I don't know if I've ever seen anything that high. That is just
Yeah,
unheard of.
yeah,
But first round, I know it's a lot of craziness going on the other side of the first round. The Clarkson
yeah.
University rivalry going on over there. But you're the 6th seed. You never had a seed this low. Is it a little odd to be this low?
Not after the start of the year that we had. Um, once you get in the playoffs, anything can happen. Obviously, you wish you were maybe a bit of a higher seed, so you get a bye. But if you have to be a player, I know the seeds don't probably fully as matter as maybe say in a full normalized year or anything like that. But yeah, I just it's another mantra of why not us. We got pretty much we got nothing to really exactly lose, right? I mean, we missed the playoffs, or we missed the main playoff bracket, the winning bracket. Um, you can only do so much at that point. Do you want to tank to do whatever? That's not really fun at that point. But yeah, why not us? Hey,
Yeah.
as
So
long
you're
as you're in,
playing.
you're in. You have the shot.
Yeah, so you're playing my college friend Larry Morris, number 3 seed. He was a win in week 12 away from being the number 1 seed.
Yeah.
Very good team. But you have 5 championships in JERRY1 Fantasy Sport. He's just in his 5th season in JERRY1 Fantasy Sports. I mean, there's a lot of experience on your side. You've won a basketball championship. I know it was a while ago, but you've won it. You've been there. You've been to 2 finals. Larry's still trying to get to his first finals. He has a 1 playoff win. Do you take experience on your side, or do you just don't worry about this is a good Larry team and you just come out and do your best?
Well, the key thing probably actually really within our matchup is what happened today with the trade deadline. Oddly enough, for instance, he has Norman Powell in his lineup, right, and he goes uh, from Toronto to Portland, right? So he's probably going to be out for a couple of days, getting through COVID, the protocols and everything that he's got to do. Um, I guess if you want to call it being lucky, I didn't have anybody traded. Um, so you kind of avoid um, some funky stuff there, right? Um, you know, it's hard to kind of base maybe this year so much on experience as it is just getting kind of maybe a bit lucky. Obviously now, you know, we get to a point in the season where, at least in the NBA side of things, right? COVID's not exactly wreaking havoc as it was, really even a month or so ago, give or take. Um, so, you know, maybe if I had to offer any up words of advice in theory to Larry, is just pay attention to that waiver wire. Um, thing I noticed for a while with our league this year, it still is the case kind of in a way. It's the same main five guys have cycled in and out of the waiver wire, whether it's Herder, um,
Mm-hmm.
who I had on my team for probably close to a month, really. Um, but, this stuff like that. And, um, when it comes down to experience versus the higher seed in this situation, I think it's one of those combinations of both in a way, right? I know in essence, right? Well, I know what I'm doing or whatever, right? But Larry, that's the one thing, the one year I coached at the high school level, was like, hey, you know, sure, we may not have any business here, but maybe that's the thing about it. When you don't have the experience, you don't know what you're doing. You're just kind of going out there and doing your own thing. And a lot of times, as long as you keep doing your own thing, it pays off in the end. So, um, it's a weird melting pot of, I think, of a lot of different factors in this matchup, in terms of experience versus higher seed. Who's been around longer, who's done better this year. So we actually probably have the most intriguing matchup there at the moment.
Yeah, it's when I first saw that potential that happened, that is a very huge first round matchup, and
Yeah.
this whole tournament or the whole playoffs there's some really good teams that could win this thing, and I don't know who's going to win it, but the last two seasons in this basketball league, I know you were gone for the 1 year, but the last two
Yep.
seasons, the 6 seed has beaten the 3 seed the last two seasons, so we will see if it's a third straight year with
See,
Paul.
even I got expectations to live up to here. So
Yeah. So have
look at
you?
that.
I know this. You probably have seen the bracket. Uh,
Yep.
it's a three-headed monster. It's been all season by record, by points. Blake, Kyle, and Larry have just they've dominated the regular season. And Paul, you're on a side where you have to beat Larry. You're gonna have to beat Kyle, and most likely a date with Blake in the finals potentially. Not sure who it could be, but it could be him. Do you look ahead, or are you just focused on this Larry game first?
To quote the great Jim Valvano, "Survive in advance," right? So we can really only focus on just day at a time here. You got look at my team, for instance, right now. Jimmy Butler ended up sitting out tonight, as well as Kawhi, and both may not be playing the next game anyway. The Heat, a couple of days, same thing with the Clippers. So um, especially these first matchups, you just got to take it one day. What specifically? What just one day at a time, even. Um, Survive, and then at that point, you just survive in advance. Um, if it's not in the cards for me to play Kyle, then it's just not in the cards. So I guess to that end, I don't think you you have to necessarily plan for your next opponent until probably Friday or Saturday. Well, really, Saturday, Sunday, really. Um, at that point, where do you stand matchup wise, acquisition, pickup number wise, stuff like that. So, um, maybe it's like 90%, you have to go day by day, but 10% you also have to look out for what's ahead.
And this year, we're hopefully, everything works out. We finish this playoffs, but we're supposed to do a third place game this year, first one in this league. So if you lose in this first round, you would get two cracks at getting your money back.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's tough. It's almost like you lose in this first round, you almost like you don't feel like you're in the playoffs, while the other four teams get to play the final 4 weeks of the season. But to transition over to hockey a little bit,
Yeah.
both brackets, both playoff brackets, have you and Matt, the other JERRY1 legend, on the opposite side of the bracket. Now, we saw in 2018, you and my college friend Nate went to the finals in both hockey and basketball, which was pretty crazy. You won hockey, he won basketball that year.
Mm-hmm.
What would it mean, as you and Matt have already great JERRY1 resumes and
Yeah.
a whole lifetime to live still? What would
You
it
don't
mean?
know that.
What would it mean if you and Matt Matt in the finals in both of these sports, what would that be?
That's obviously pretty historic. I think it'd mean a lot. Me and Matt obviously pretty much part of this now really original six type deal, and for especially for Matt this year, hockey wise, think about a team that's under 500 gets into the playoff as that last seed, you know, and at that point he'll have to get by, arguably the best fantasy hockey player that Jerry1 has in Justin Kiefer. Um, I think that says a lot about Matt from the fantasy side at that point, anyway. So I think it would make it that much more special to if it were both of us.
It would just, when I think of it, if you guys met in the finals, I would take it as if I was a Justin Kiefer or a Blake or a
Mm,
Kyle or a Nate who've had great seasons this year. I would take it like, oh my goodness, there's no hope. We have the best regular season ever,
yeah,
and yet it's still Paul and Matt in the finals dominating these leagues. It would be historic, but it's a lot to ask because you guys would have
yeah,
to knock out every single playoff team in both leagues, which would be
yeah.
insane.
Well, I guess the only solace I have in that is the fact that the top three seeds obviously in hockey have a de facto bye. Um, so obviously, like me and Nate, we have pretty much the next 2 weeks off. Right now it's pretty much more or less a week and a half, but um, you don't have to worry about that extra game. You don't have to worry about this week,
Yeah.
especially you look at the NHL right now, and it's not so much a league wide issue as so much it is maybe a specific division issue out here in pretty much your combo of Atlantic/East, right? You know, obviously the deal with Buffalo's still going on, but now with the Bruins too. So um,
Yeah.
it shows, I think, collectively, going back to like what I said, for if Matt were to come out of that, for any of us to really come out of it, and it helps, it shows the type of grit, perseverance, and tenacity it takes to become a Jerry1 legend.
Yeah. It's a lot of hard work, but hockey, we've touched on a little bit already. You started just like basketball, 0-2 in hockey, and that was kind of nerve wracking a little bit in a 10-week shortened season. But
Yeah.
then you rattled off 6 straight wins. You closed out the season 7 of your last 8.
Mm,
Lost a heartbreaker 1 point by Justin Kiefer in week 9. Like you said, you and Nate got to buy. It's huge. It's absolutely huge. You could take the 2 weeks to get healthy if you're having problems there, and you don't have to fight for 6 straight weeks to win a championship like Josh and Matt have to do now, and have to go through the number one seed Justin Kiefer as well just to get to the finals. You will play Nate in the semifinals starting April 5th. What are your thoughts on this hockey team, Paul?
it certainly, I'll start here. Offensively, it did exactly pretty much what I thought it was going to do. My offensive skaters, um, so not much, I guess, there. Not to disparage that group by any means, but the defense really um, did a really tremendous job, in my opinion. Defense across both my fantasy hockey leagues that I'm in is always usually my shortcoming, and has my defensive unit overall been really great? No, but they've been really good. Certainly better than a unit that I've usually drafted and picked through the waiver wire. So, uh, big big ups to my defensive skaters to get to this point. Because like I said, offensively, I my team set up to just do what they were supposed to do. Right, I have Drysdale, Stamkos, Pasternak. So they did what they had to do, did what I expect them to do. But man, that defensive unit of mine, I really love this year.
So you weird stat at the start of the
Yeah.
season. You've had this 4 years of this league, and you've had the first pick in this league 3 of the 4 years. And you took Leon Draisaitl at number 1. He's been great. He's been
Yep.
great. No kidding about that. But Connor McDavid's had slightly a better fantasy year. I know it's not a huge difference, but
Not according to the rankings.
no, not according to the rankings, but overall points. It's so close. It's so close.
Yeah.
You couldn't hit or it was a hit. You would hit on both of them. And
It's pretty wild that Edmonton's 2 best players play on the same line, and that's about it.
Yeah. What was the decision to taking Draisaitl over McDavid though?
It was a tough call actually, because I think even though what Draisaitl's done the past year or so, before the pandemic, he showed what he has, and he was one of the fantasy getters last year in most formats. So, it was admittedly a bit tough. So I went with Draisaitl mostly because I figured McDavid would probably get most of the attention. It pains me to say this. McDavid's a guy I saw play when he was in the OHL with Erie a few times. Got actually a press deal with him one time, working with the school radio at Gannon. But it pained me because I sit there and, McDavid does have a bit of an injury history. Just the way he plays and his size and everything like that contributes into it a little bit. So I went with what I thought would be probably the healthier option all year long. McDavid has had his healthiest year to date, arguably one of his better statistical years average-wise to date, because obviously it's a shortened season. You won't have as good as a year really as a full-length deal. Average-wise, it's as good as it's ever been for McDavid. So it was probably, looking back, on a true toss-up deal. Absolutely. So I just went with Draisaitl for probably more of a safety net reason than anything else.
Yeah, and McDavid's doing a hell of a job for Josh's team. But I gotta get your thoughts on the goalies. And now your Week 10 matchup against Q, one of the guys who does not play goalies, even though the season's over. We've seen Nate started with it. He had 2 shutouts the first night of his last 2 picks in the entire draft. 2 shutouts by his goalies, then he cut them both. He's played without goalies the whole year. Then Justin Kiefer, right before, I believe, a Nate matchup, he started playing no goalies, and Q started doing it. And your top scorer in Week 10, Philip Grubauer.
Yeah, Grubauer
was your top scorer in Week 10, your goalie.
Yeah.
See, and what are your thoughts on this sitting goalies?
I'm not a fan of it. I understand it in theory. It's kind of like in football when you go without a kicker. Or maybe in all fairness, probably more like in football if you go without a defense. Like I said, I get it. You're netting 0 for that slot. You aren't risking, obviously, going into a negative point situation, like, for instance, my goalies tonight are. But the same token, you're leaving points more or less on the table depending upon your goalie situation. The reason why I don't like it is, simply put, if you get into a situation, at the end of the week, obviously in playoffs it means a lot, but hey, in the regular season, last couple of weeks of the year, if you're on the bubble, 1 or 2 points can make all the difference. And if you're sitting, if you're sitting even, one of your goalies and you still have the one in there, right? Like, that could make all the difference in the world. So, I do understand it in theory. I'm imagining that's the theory that they're thinking anyway. But
you're keeping your goalies, aren't you?
Yeah. I'm not. It seems pretty stupid to me to not have netminders in there.
So what's the mindset going into this matchup against Nate in a couple of weeks? You're the only former champions in this league. Huge semifinal. You thought Larry U was huge. This is huge. You versus Nate. Nate, was 17-2 last year, number 1 seed. His whole season cut short. A championship was in his hands. But he's not been as good this year, but he's good. But what's the mindset for your team going into this matchup? 2 weeks.
Yeah, obviously we have another week to stew on it, which is good. Obviously, bit of an injury bug is sweeping our team right now. So, um, once we get back to full power, I think it's KD bar to the door. Let the best offense win at that point between us two. Um, we both similar patterns really all year. Matchup well, obviously matchup wise, but um, roster wise, stat wise. So um, I'm looking forward to it. You know, um, again, it's a very big matchup, but all I can do is survive in advance. You just have to take it day by day, week by week. So I'm really looking forward to it. Especially if both our teams are all the way healthy and all good to go. It should be a really good matchup.
Yep. Before we stop with the hockey talk, 73-69, Matt over Josh right now. Any
Wow.
prediction?
Well, obviously they got another pretty much 10 days to figure this deal out.
Yep.
But Matt, came on pretty strong as of late.
An under 500 team has never won a playoff game.
Why not make a little history for the South Park Pee Wee hockey team? So it's pretty interesting, but we'll see. I think we'll have a really good indication about how that matchup's going to turn out as we flip the calendar to next week.
Yep. That's first playoffs in this league too, so it's a big deal for them. Both looking for their first career playoff win. Both trying to be in that conversation in the semis, but improving. Paul, your JERRY1 2021 ESPN Tournament Challenge bracket. I'm looking at it right now. Improving.
I'm not looking at it.
Improving is the word. Right now, you are tied for 54th out of 71 owners. It's not looking good because your max is only 930 right now, 330 points. But you still have 3 of the 4 Final Four teams that you predicted. Gonzaga, Florida State, Arkansas, Illinois was your final. The only problem is you had Illinois going all the way.
Yeah.
Paul, thoughts on your bracket now going in the second week?
Oh, it's busted. Yeah, I mean, the side of the bracket I thought would be more chalk than anything else completely was the one that caused the most chaos. This year I pretty much picked really straight up with my head, I thought, for the most part, and just wasn't, meant to be. I mean, hell, I even, had San Diego State in the Sweet 16. So
Lead eight.
Yeah, I had them beating Houston. So
yeah,
what can you do?
5 Elite Eight still.
Yeah. Not a ton you can do. It's March Madness, right?
Yeah.
So it is what it is. It's been a tough year. Obviously, predict games anyway, and the bracket this year was certainly no exception to the rule.
Yeah. One guy who's in the running still, tied for third. This is only the second year that we've done it. Obviously, Matt Felice, your rival. What would you think of a man like Matt to win a bracket challenge twice?
Well, we already have a protest filed with the NCAA against the Matt Felice University Falcons. No. Obviously, this is, like I said, this one's a completely different beast than what we actually do, fantasy wise. So more power to Matt, but my main concern has always been the actual rings at the end. So
yeah,
we'll
absolutely. Well, I appreciate you doing this bracket challenge. And hopefully we get more people every year. So we'll see how it goes.
I mean, 71's a lot.
Syracuse won it all, though.
I mean, hell yeah. Why not us, right?
Yeah.
Buddy Buckets, baby.
But one last sport we'll talk about today. No football today, that's the big league. But baseball is starting up this Sunday, March 28th at 9 p.m. is our draft, 9 p.m. on the East Coast. Paul, obviously, I think we talked about this last time you were on. You're disappointing. Shortened season, undefeated, losing to my cousin Johnny in the finals. But second year back, you played the inaugural year, but then you're back again. Full season here. Finally, JERRY1 gets a full season. We did see in football, but like a long season, 18-week regular season. Yeah. What are you looking forward to it? Obviously, you're a big baseball.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, absolutely. It's going to be a really fun year, I think, baseball-wise overall anyway. So I'm really looking forward to it. Obviously last year didn't end the way we wanted, but, we got a new team mindset, new team, not full-fledged leadership, but we're really looking forward to stuff on the Altuve's tattoo squad. So
yeah, keeping the name, huh? Keeping the name.
Yeah, I think so for this year. There's nothing really clever baseball-wise I can exactly think of, unless it's unless we go something maybe down the Tony La Russa path. But that's pretty much it.
Yeah, well, in basketball we saw a mid-season name change, so
that's true. You never know.
But baseball, I'm looking forward to it. It should be a good one. I mean, I know you're definitely focused on basketball and hockey right now, but first couple weeks of baseball, we'll see how it goes.
Yeah, you can't lose focus. You can't lose focus of it, right? It's obviously a long year, but once you get to these dog days, I mean, they turn to fights, and if you can get a win early, if you get wins early on, it certainly makes it easy if you drop a couple during July or August.
I'm ready for it. I'm bored already. 1 week out, no hockey, basketball team. I'm not setting any lineups right now on the JERRY1 side of things, but I'm bored. I want to get back on. I want to set a lineup. Let's go. But
my baseball prospectus is ready to go, so we're ready.
Yeah. So, Paul, it has come to this point of the show. Anybody who comes on my show for a third time plays my new game called JERRY1 Millionaire. Da-da-da-da.
I was on the non-copyright, right?
Yeah. So it's a condensed version of Millionaire. You know how to play.
Yep.
It's 10 questions.
All
Try
right.
to win 100 points. So 10 points, 20 points, 30 points, all the way up to 100 points.
All right.
Okay, so I'm just going to, it's a question and four choices. You say the answer, final answer. I make a dramatic long pause. But the save points in this is after 30 points, and after 60 points, and then up to 100 points. So three questions, and 4 questions. You get 3 lifelines, 50-50. The second lifeline is a hint from me. And then the third lifeline is an interesting one. It is a double. It's a second choice. You get 2 choices at the answer.
You should call it double shot.
Double shot. You know what? That's what the official name is going to be. Double shot. I'm writing that down. So double shot is interesting. So you have to say you're going to use the lifeline. Double shot. You can go for an answer on the first one, and you get it wrong, you can use the hint after. You can't use the 50-50. You can use the hint after one guess. But if you guess right on the first guess, the lifeline's still gone in general. It's 2 shots before whatever. And and I think that's it. If you get any question wrong at any point, there's no help. There's nothing. The game won't be over if you get the first one wrong. But the first 3 are easy. Do not overthink them. And are you ready to play, Paul?
I'm ready, Nick.
Okay. Do you have anything to write down? You need?
No, I'm good. I'm good. I'm doing this like actual millionaire. I'm just going in without anything. So
if you need anything repeated, just let me know.
All right.
All right. Here we go. For 10 points. Here we go. This is a football question. Fantasy football. Which one of these owners have you beat in a football finals? Is it A, Andrew, B, Pat, C, Jeremy, or D, Kurt?
Well, we know that we can cross Kurt right off the bat away. He hasn't been in football yet.
Yeah.
Jeremy's still fairly new to the league.
Who have you beaten in a football finals?
I mean, honestly, these are kind of tough for me because I have such an awful memory when it comes to JERRY1. I hate to go out on the first one, obviously. So
You're going to use a lifeline.
I want to make sure if I'm remembering right that I don't.
Andrew, Pat, Jeremy, Kurt.
So I'm gonna go Andrew, locking it in, final answer.
A final answer?
Oh no. It's Jeremy, isn't it? Jeremy locking it in final.
All right, Paul. All right, Paul. Here's what we're going to do. This game's off to a best start. Okay. Any guess who comes on, I'm going to say it right now. The game is not over after the first 3 questions. Paul, I'm going to give you the 10 points, but
Wow.
it is not. You're wrong on both. It is Pat is the right answer.
I thought Pat only made the one final and that was it.
You beat him in 2015. Pat is the right answer. Paul, here's your punishment. You need to delete one of the 3 lifelines. Which one?
Well, I treat it like it's all eliminate double shot.
Okay, eliminate double shot. Okay, we're moving on. Okay, Paul. Here we go. I might have made that one just a tad harder. I just thought, beating Pat, I thought you might have remembered that. But it's all right. Here we go. For 20 points. Longest winning streak in basketball for you. What is your longest winning streak in basketball? Is it A, 2 games, B, 3 games, C, 14 games, D, none?
14. I don't think I went undefeated at all. Wait, are you counting playoffs?
Yes, this is any time in the season. Longest winning streak.
Oh wait, did you just say this season?
No, all time. What's your longest winning streak? 2, 3, 14, none.
Well, I know it's not 2. I did go on a 3-game win streak this past year.
Paul, you're on. Paul, this is not going to. I know this game's also a rough start for you. I know it's late. This is not going to count your hint, but you're on a 4-game winning streak currently.
Yeah,
what is your?
Well, you said what? 2, 3, 14, or 0?
0. Yeah, what is it?
I mean, how is it 14 then?
This is all time.
Now you're confusing me, in all honesty. Okay, hold on. Can you just repeat it so I can, for sure?
Yes, no problem.
Okay.
What is your longest winning streak in your franchise in basketball? 2, 3, 14, or none?
The longest, so obviously I'm on a longer one than 3, so 14. Lock it in.
And that is correct. Yes, Paul, it is 14.
I admittedly was confused on that one. So
it's all right. All right. You still get the 2 lifeline. 14 inaugural season. You started 14-0.
Damn.
Which is still the longest winning streak in overall of JERRY1 Fantasy Sports. Okay. Here we go. For the 30-point question, you still have 2 lifelines, hint and 50-50.
Yep.
30 points. Okay, you got it. Who did you lose to in the 2020 Fantasy Baseball Finals? Is it A, Andrew, B, Josh, C, Johnny, D, Pat?
Well, Pat doesn't do fantasy baseball. We can get him out of here. But this one's easy. This one's going to be etched in my brain for a little bit. One, Johnny Marino, C, lock it in, final answer.
I'm going to do the dramatic pause.
Commercial break.
And that is correct. Yes, Johnny, 2020, lost to him. Fantasy baseball, so you are locked in at 30 points. You got to go for it. You definitely got to go for it on this 40-point question. Okay, no more help for anybody who comes on for this game. If you get one wrong in the first 3, you just have to sacrifice a lifeline like Paul did. But Paul's got the 50-50. He's got the hint. He's got a 40-point question. Here we go. It's getting a little trickier. Playing Larry this week in fantasy basketball. What is your career record versus Larry in fantasy basketball? Is it A, 1-0, B, 0-1, C, 1-2, D, 1-1? This is playoffs and regular season. Larry basketball career record: 1-0, 0-1, 1-2, 1-1.
Well, I know I'm not 0-1 since we do have multiple matchups. I'm trying to remember if he was in, the couple, really not so much last year, but a couple years ago. I'm going to go 1-1 D final answer. Because that's what I know it is this year, I think.
And that is correct. Yes. 1-1. Yes. 1 win, 1 loss, 2 seasons, 2 meetings. That is your career record versus Larry. We'll see if you get it to 2-1 after this week. So you're up to 40 points.
All right.
50-point question. You get it right, you get 50. You lose, you get it wrong, you fall back to 30, or you can walk with 40. Here we go. What is your career earnings, current earnings in fantasy basketball only?
Okay.
A, minus $55, B, minus $30, C, minus $10, or D, $25. Minus 55, minus 30, minus 10, 25.
Well, the key thing here is trying to remember exactly maybe what pay-in's in, but this is only my third year with fantasy basketball after taking the 1 year off after winning fantasy basketball. So I'm going to go $25 D, lock it in, final answer.
And I'm so sorry, Paul.
Wait a second.
Wrong.
What?
That is wrong. The correct answer is A, minus $55. And the reason...
Wait a second. How much did we play for?
And the reason is minus 55. The inaugural season was a free entry fee.
Oh, man.
There's no help for me this time. You end with 30 points.
Yikes.
I'm glad you went for it. I hope nobody walks in this game since you will never play it again. But Paul, 30 points. You're the top scorer. Once again, you're the top scorer. Disappointing.
Can only go up from here.
Disappointing. I think I'll do this to every question. Everybody who comes on this game, I'll give you, since you didn't make it, the 100 point question.
Okay. All right.
For fun. This is ridiculous. You'll never get this. And you know what? We'll just go with it.
Yeah.
How many 100-point games in fantasy football have you had since the 2014 season when Jared and Jeremy came in the league? Is it A, 42, B, 45, C, 46, D, 52?
Where's the Elias Sports Bureau when you need them? I'm going for the goose, so give me 52, final answer.
And that is wrong. It is 45 is the right answer.
So shot the middle.
Yeah, I when people play this game, I'm gonna make the last question hard.
Yeah. That is challenging, man, because that is tough because I mean shit. Damn.
Yeah. Well, it's tough with you. It's tough with you to find easy questions because you've been around so long. And there's like so many different ways I can ask a question to you. But, thanks for playing.
Thanks for having me on. I appreciate it.
Before we get you out, though.
Oh, hold on. We have breaking NHL news.
Oh, really?
Mika Zibanejad has made NHL history. He is the first player ever with 6+ points in consecutive games against the same one opponent in their matchups.
Wow.
They're absolutely decimating the Flyers.
I know he's on your other fantasy hockey team, right?
He is.
He's on mine. So we're starting to really get some good performances out of him. But
golf class versus Zibanejad, who I couldn't drop.
Yeah, neither could I. I couldn't do it, but especially as a Ranger too. But before I get you out of here, Paul, you win fantasy hockey, you win fantasy basketball. That's your 6th or 7th championship. It'd be your first since 2018. If you do it in basketball, you can finally get that monkey off your back of not winning a 10-man league or plus. I know that's a thing on you, but championship's a championship.
It's the thing
But
that Path puts on me.
yeah, but championship's a championship. But if you win basketball or you win hockey, you'll be the first two-time winner in both those sports. What would that mean to you?
Another notch in the belt. That'd be pretty cool. You have to get there first, obviously, but that'd be pretty cool. That'd be obviously 3 leagues that multi-time champion in, and that means we have to really go ahead and get baseball at that point.
Yeah, baseball that would complete the
Grand Slam.
Grand Slam.
Yeah.
Yeah, it would be pretty cool for you. But Paul, I wish you the best of luck in the playoffs, hockey, basketball. Hopefully your bracket gets over 400 points this year. And I wish you the best of luck on Sunday's draft in fantasy baseball. But,
thank you, Nick. I appreciate it. Good luck to you as well in the draft. So
yeah, thank you. And and thanks for coming on, Paul. I'll see you later.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me, Nick. We'll catch up to you on Sunday.
I want to thank Paul for coming on. It was good to talk. I'm good to catch up with him. Even though I see him all the time, but it was good to talk to him. Get him on this. It was great to get him on the pod. But let's talk about fantasy hockey. Fantasy hockey playoffs are here. Obviously, basketball's got the 2 games that I've talked about. Fantasy hockey only has the 1. It's a 5-team playoff, as you see. Matt did not win in week 10 of the final week of the regular season, but me and Q did lose. Disappointing. Couldn't beat Josh. Q couldn't beat Paul. And Nate took care of Jack pretty easily. But, Justin Kiefer, number 1 seed, already locked that up the week before with his win against Paul. But Paul and Nate get the buys. Nate has to head over to Josh. So Josh has to play in the playing game. This is the 3rd time that we've seen the playing game in fantasy hockey. 2nd straight year we've seen the playing game. Playing game did finish last year. Justin Kiefer and Jack playing in the playing game last year in their first year in fantasy hockey, and Justin Kiefer got the 1-point win over Jack in that week, in that round. But Justin Kiefer's run came short, winning the semifinals, got cut short against Nate, who is a dominating team, had won 10 in a row, 17-2, number 1 seed, number 1 scoring champ in the points last year in the regular season. So that was Nate was only up 3 points 4 days ago. So never know what could happen that weekend of that final weekend of that semifinal. But the playing game, Matt is in. He's in, finally in. He did not. This is not how he imagined getting into the playoffs, but he's in 4-6. We've seen for the last 3 straight years in this league, we've seen an under 500 team make the playoffs. Now Matt's the 3rd straight year. But this is the first time we've seen a team 2 games under 500. It's not good look. I don't like it as a commissioner. I don't like to see an under 500 team make the playoffs. I'll be honest. I don't like to see it. But here's Matt's chance. He's finally earned his chance. He should have had a chance the first year when there was only 3 teams that made the playoffs of the 6 teams. He's got his chance now. And against a guy who's owned him in fantasy hockey, always finished ahead of him in the standings. He's finished ahead of him in the standings again this year in Josh. But Josh has never won a playoff game. Matt's first playoff game. Nate's got a championship. Paul's got a championship in this league. Justin Kiefer has 1 playoff win, has never lost officially in the playoffs. But, obviously this is an interesting matchup. This is an opportunity for a franchise in fantasy hockey and Josh and Matt to get that first career playoff win. It's a playoff win. I know it's always been Justin. It's always been Paul, and it's always been Nate this year. They've been the top 3 teams. There's no question about that. Me, Q, and Jack. Q had a nice stretch there. We thought he might have been in. Same with me. But just inconsistency hurt our chances. Jack needs to set his lineup. But Matt and Josh have an opportunity to win a playoff game. Right now on this Thursday evening, Matt's got a 55-49 lead over Josh. Josh is led by Connor McDavid. By far the best scorer. We didn't even talk about Nikola Jokic on Paul's team. He's the by far best scorer. Over here on Josh's hockey team, Connor McDavid. The reason he's in the playoffs. So we'll see what happens here. I'm intrigued. I like Matt's chances in this because Matt he's shown that he can compete in this league. He's beaten Nate twice this year. So we'll see what happens. but Josh has always seemed to have Matt's number, so I'd watch out for that. We'll see who has the lead after this, because both in basketball and hockey, in the playing game in the first round, anybody who has the lead after that first week has always won. I know basketball's a little weird because sometimes the All-Star break is in the mix of the first round. I think it's usually the first 2 weeks. Whenever a first official week happens, whether it's 9 days of the All-Star break or 1 week of 7 days, that person whoever had that lead going into that final week has always won. So it's important to get that lead. We'll see what happens. I'm excited. Playing game, just before it's like the calm before the storm, because you talk about the basketball period of death. These 3 guys plus Matt and Josh are going to go to the death because Justin Kiefer's trash talk is at an ultimate high in fantasy hockey right now. And Nate wants it bad. And there's money on the line this year, $70 for first. And Paul wants it bad too. Paul hasn't won since the inaugural season in this league either. So we'll see what happens. That's fantasy hockey. Playing game, week 1, up 2. Now let's talk a little bit about the tournament challenge. Larry's in the lead. How about that? A JERRY1 owner of the fantasy leagues is in the lead. That's what you like to see. Larry is tied for the lead with Matt's college friend Rob's brother Ryan Armstrong. Now I've heard a lot about this Ryan going through Matt's leagues and how he's like a mixture of Paul and me in his fantasy leagues that Matt plays in. And yeah, so it's like he wins it all like a Paul, and he's the commissioner like me. So that's a mixture of both. So that's a very good owner. That's a deadly owner. And he's a real threat here at the tournament challenge. Larry and him both have Gonzaga, and they both have 410 points going into the second weekend. So, you got to like the chances. Gonzaga. And then, of course, if it's top 3, you get in the money. So we have 5 guys tied for 3 who get about $14. Tammy Morrow, who is also a Matt's college friend. Rob Armstrong, who is Matt's college friend, who I mentioned, whose brother Ryan is tied with Larry. Rob was also in the top 5 last year, and 2 years ago. Last time we did this, the only other time we've done this. And then, of course, you got Seneca Falls guys, Ty Mealy and Mike Bruno, and, of course, the defending champ, Matt, another JERRY1 guy in the mix as well. Obviously, you got to like Sammy and Matt because they have Gonzaga, Larry and Ryan because they have Gonzaga. Obviously, I think if you don't have the winner, you're not going to win this challenge. So even though they're in the mix right now for the money, Mealy, Bruno, and Rob, they're probably gone. West Virginia's gone. Texas Tech's gone. Illinois is gone. So that eliminates a lot of people. I mean, just a couple notes off the JERRY1 guys. Good to see Josh out there. Josh didn't get to play 2 years ago because he was doing Army stuff. And we got a good turnout. I mean, we have 20 active owners and 5 inactive owners in the JERRY1 world, in the JERRY1 leagues. We got 17 active of the 20 active to play in this. And we got 1 inactive to play in this as well, in Tom Canale. Tom Canale got Gonzaga, but he is in 68th place, 1290, not dead, but you want one sleeper who's down there who can make a push. I'm going to go a guy with a couple points more projected, and more max, I should say, and Justin Kiefer. He's hot in the hockey, and now I got him here. He's got the 64th best bracket right now out of 71 total. And I like Justin Kiefer. I think he's a sleeper at the money. Not saying he's going to win, but he's got Gonzaga, Michigan, Baylor still has his Final Four. West Virginia is gone. He's a sleeper. Anybody who's got Gonzaga is a sleeper. There's a lot of Gonzagas. The Illinois are really hurting. Justin Elwa, Paul Russo. Paul's doing better. Sam Shields, I see here, Illinois. But it's a good first week. We had a good first weekend in this. We got 2 more weeks to go. Officially 6 more days. We got the 2 Sweet 16 days, which I kind of like that. The quadruple headers. I kind of like that this year. And then we got the 2 Elite 8 days earlier next week to close out March. And then we got the Final Four next Saturday. And we got the championship the following Monday after that. So it's going to come down to it. I think, obviously, I picked Gonzaga, so I think Gonzaga's going to win this thing. So I like Larry and Matt. I think they got a shot at this thing. Let's see. Larry, let's look at his Final Four. Larry's got Gonzaga, Michigan, Baylor, just like Justin Kiefer. So Justin Kiefer's going to have to make a move here in the Elite Eight somewhere, if he can. I don't want to get too in depth with everyone's brackets, but let's look at Matt's Final Four. So Matt lost 3 Final Four teams. So that's not good. That's where I like Larry over him. Larry's got a real shot at this thing. Gonzaga, Michigan, Baylor. Ryan Armstrong has Gonzaga, Alabama, Baylor. So Michigan, Alabama, huge swing. If Larry wants to win this thing over Ryan Armstrong, it's going to be tight. Larry's thinking fantasy basketball championship. He's thinking tournament challenge championship. How can he even be thinking about baseball? Because, he's really hoping for a better baseball season, Larry, but a lot going on with him right now. So I don't know where his head's going to be at this weekend's draft, which we'll say in a second here. But that's really it for the tournament challenge. Jack DeRue's up there. He's in the top 10. But Illinois, like I said, is going to hurt him. Boeheim's Booger, though. Let's give a shout-out to someone who's not a JERRY1 guy. Boeheim's Booger correctly picked Oral Roberts in the Sweet 16. If you're wondering who Boeheim's Booger is, that is Jack Boogmaster, who is – you can get this. Jeremy, who helped me with the group, with Matt, who also helped me with the group. It's Jeremy's girlfriend, Nina. I don't know how to say her last name. How do you say the last name? I know it. Wowowski. Close enough. But anyway, it's Nina's brother's Tyler, her brother's Tyler, friend. Jeremy's girlfriend's brother's friend. That's who Jack Boogmaster is. Boeheim's Booger. Correctly picked Oral Roberts in this Sweet 16. So shout out to him. Going to be fun. Matt, Larry in the mix. Jack, not really. Rooting for those JERRY1 guys. Justin Kiefer, watch out for. Tom Canale, keep fighting, kid. You got Gonzaga. I mean, let's quickly look at Tom. He's way down there. Gonzaga, Michigan, Villanova. Ooh, Villanova. So, if you get Villanova, Tom, got an outside chance. If you're watching this. We'll see what happens. That's it for the ESPN Tournament Challenge. Now, the big announcement about fantasy baseball. The draft is this Sunday, March 28th at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We do it late one, so our China guy, Andrew Lucchesi, could early draft. So that's the reason why we do it so late for draft. Usually they're on Sundays, but that's where a lot of people can do them that day. So we'll see how that goes. So this Sunday, March 28th, 2021 at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time is this year's 4th annual JERRY1 Fantasy Baseball Draft. But that's really it. So fantasy basketball first round, week 1. Fantasy hockey playing game, week 1. Playoffs are here. ESPN Tournament Challenge, week 2 of 3 is here. Will Larry win? Will Larry win anything? Will Blake win? Will Justin Kiefer win? We will see. Time will tell. Fantasy baseball is here. Let's get it going. But beautiful day to do a podcast. I want to thank Paul for coming on. It was a pleasure talking to him. So everyone, best of luck going forward in these JERRY1. It's a busy time in JERRY1 right now. But I've been Nick Felice. Set your lineup, and we'll see you on the next JERRY1 Fantasy Sports Podcast. Goodbye.